Hi, my name is Celine and today I will tell you the story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs Part 2. Snow White bolted awake. The seven dwarfs could tell she was as surprised as they were. Soon, they all relaxed and shared their stories. Snow White learned their names: Bashful Doc, Dopey, Grumpy, Happy, Sleepy, and Sneezy. She told them all about her stepmother, that her stepmother had tried to get the huntsman to kill her, that the huntsman had set her free in the woods, and that she could never go back home again. "Stay here with us," said Bashful. "That's sweet," said Snow White. "But if I were to stay here at your home, I would have to do something for all of you. You already cleaned up our place," said Sneezy. "Keeping the house clean will be easy," said Snow White, "as long as we all pitch in. I will let everyone know what part they can do, and I will do my share too, of course." "That's fair," said Happy. "But there must be something else I can do for you," said Snow White. The seven dwarfs shrugged. "Do you know how to read?" said Duck. "We have these books filled with wonderful tales, and would love to be able to read them." And so it was agreed that Snow White would teach them how to read. To celebrate their new friendship, Snow White and the seven dwarfs sang and danced the night away. The next morning before they left for work, the seven dwarfs warned Snow White she must not open the door to anyone. After all, who knows what evil her stepmother might do? The princess nodded in agreement, and the dwarfs left the house. The princess prepared her first reading lesson. She also prepared a good hot meal for the seven dwarfs when they returned home that night. And so the days passed. Back at the castle, the queen marched up to her mirror. "Mirror, mirror on the wall," she demanded, "who is the fairest of them all?" "Snow White is the fairest of them all," said the magic mirror. "That's impossible," screamed the queen. "The girl is no longer alive." "Snow White lives," said the magic mirror. And an image was shown on the mirror of Snow White living in the cottage of the seven dwarfs. The queen turned red with rage. She screamed, "Who does she think she is? Snow White will not get away with this." At the cottage of the dwarfs the next afternoon, when the seven dwarfs were away at work, there was a knock on the door. "Who is it?" said Snow White. She remembered the warning of the seven dwarfs not to open the door to anyone. "It's only a poor old woman," came a squeaky voice, selling apples. Yet it was the evil queen, disguised as an old woman. "It's raining out here, my dear," said her voice through the door. "Please let me in, poor thing," thought Snow White, having to go door to door selling apples in the rain. And so she opened the door. "Take a look at this big red apple," said the old woman, who, as you know by now, was really the queen in disguise. She held the red apple close to Snow White's face. "Lovely, my dear, isn't it? I would like very much to buy your apple," said Snow White, "but I have no money. That fine comb in your hair will make a good trade," said the old woman. "Well, all right then," said Snow White. She took the comb out of her hair and gave it to the old woman, who then gave her the apple. Snow White took a big bite. Alas, the fruit was poisoned. At once, Snow White fell to the ground in a deep sleep. "Yes," shouted the queen. pumping the air with her fists. Just then, the door flew open. In marched the 7 dwarfs, home from the day's work. Shocked indeed, they were to find Snow White lying on the floor, and what must be her stepmother beside her, laughing. They chased that evil queen out the door and into the storm. Up to the very top of a mountain they chased her. All of a sudden, lightning hit the mountain. The queen fell, and she was never seen again. But there was nothing to help poor Snow White. She stayed absolutely still in her deep sleep. The 7 dwarfs gently lifted her into a glass coffin. Day and night, they kept watch over her. One day, the prince happened to pass through. Ever since he had learned that Snow White was missing at the castle, he was searching for her, far and wide. Now he had finally found her, but in such a state. The prince pulled open the glass coffin. Her face seemed so fresh, even in the deep sleep. He gently took one of Snow White's hands in his own and kissed it. At once, Snow White's eyes opened. With love's first kiss, the evil queen's spell was forever gone. Now nothing stood in the way for Snow White and the prince to be together forever. They returned to the prince's kingdom and lived happily ever after.